Hello, everyone, and welcome to Zero Effort Game Reviews, where I review games with zero effort. However, today there's going to be a slight twist. I'm going to put a little bit more effort than I usually do. This is like the 50th take. And I already actually uploaded a review before, and I'm re uploading it because I feel like I did not review this game and gave it the proper credit that it actually deserves. So, this is going to be my final try to do it. Mistakes and all, I'm going for it. Okay. So the game today that I am reviewing is called V Rising, and this game is in early access. I want to preface that V Rising is a masterpiece. It is an amazing game, and it's not even finished. They're going to bring out more content for this game, and I am absolutely excited, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in detail later down the line. In 2022, Elden Ring came out. I honestly thought that that game was going to be game of the year for me. I sunk 170 hours into it. I got all of the achievements. I'm a massive FromSoft fan. V Rising, after 60 hours, is easily my favorite game of this year. Halfway through the year, and that might change, but currently right now, V Rising is my favorite game of the year. I did have a love-hate relationship with this game. There is a bit of a learning curve. And this game is actually really, really terrible at explaining things. And I will go into detail about that a little bit later. How this review is going to be structured from this point on is that I'll give you kind of like an overview or a background about this game. Then I'll explain how I experienced this game and explain the mechanics that started like appearing to me, and then kind of explaining how I understood or like learned about the depth of these mechanics as I went along. And then kind of talk about the pros and cons that I felt about like this game in general. So let's go into it. V Rising, which is in early access, was made by Stonelux Studios. Stonelux Studios basically came out with a game called Battlerite a couple of years ago, and it was an arena like PvP fighting game. So functionally, instead of regular MOBAs where it's like League of Legends or Dota where you're 5 versus 5 heroes and you kill minions, you get money, get items, and kill each other in massive team fights, they said, fuck it, we don't want to wait 50 minutes to get to that. We just want to get straight to the team fighting. So that's what it was. You just have heroes, 3 versus 3, and you just go ham. It was really fun. I think the server shut down, I think because they had money issues. Not too sure. But yeah. But after playing this game, I didn't realize that this was the same studio. But I noticed that I was familiar with the gameplay mechanics. It made sense. The combat system within V Rising is basically Battlerite ripped directly from Battlerite. That's not a bad thing. It's a good thing because Battlerite was actually a very, very fun game and went straight to the point. So, V Rising is a PvP focused survival game with a ton of vampire flavor text, but has so many cool gameplay mechanics and design choices that it's actually a very fun game to play as PvE if you understand how to make changes in the ini files and the world settings, because the developers didn't actually do it for you, which I think is it's a pretty big fuck up on their part. But I understand because this is a PvP game, and PvE wasn't really taken that much into consideration when they made balance choices. So let's begin. You open up this game, and they basically give you a little bit of a story. And that's all the story you really get. It's all the story you really need. Vampires used to be the main powerhouse of the world. And then a paladin-ass dude or humans came up and then completely fucked over the vampires. The vampires went into hiding. You're one of those vampires. Now you're all starting to awaken again. Now you're going back into the world of humans, monsters, demons, all these sort of things, and trying to control everything. Meanwhile, killing other vampires or working together with them. That's it. That's the story. So, me just rocking into this game with a friend, immediately noticed one thing. Sunlight hurts the living shit out of you. Good flavor text. But the world is designed in such a smart way that there's pathways, right? And open areas have a lot of sunlight. But everywhere has a lot of rocks and trees and like cliffs and stuff like that, so you can always hide in the shadows. But the interesting thing about this mechanic is that sometimes if you cut down trees, the sun appears. As the sun moves across the sky, the shadows start to move. Sometimes in combat situations, a unique situation that will actually occur quite commonly is that the sun will just appear and then you have to start running from both the enemy and from the sun. And if they start cutting down trees, there's no shade, which means that you're just going to burn and die. This is a really cool mechanic. It is one of the most frustrating mechanics to deal with, but it's really cool and it's great flavor text. The second thing you come into contact with this game design is that there is a concept of blood. Of course, because it's a vampire, right? Now, naturally, I thought you just drain blood, done. It's HP. Nope. It unlocks you to something amazing. You have HP, and then you have your blood, like container. And every time before you kill something, you have the option to feed on them. And once you're feeding, you're vulnerable to attacks for a couple of seconds, right? But once you like feed from that person, creature, demon, whatever, that creature will have a blood type and a blood purity or a blood percentage. And that actually changes quite a lot on how combat or even resource management, all these sort of things happen. So, for example, there is a worker, and the worker has a 20% blood purity. You take that, that means that when you harvest resources, you can harvest anywhere between 10 to 20% extra resources. If they were like 30%, that means that there was a higher chance of you doing more damage to the resource nodes so you can harvest things faster, etc., 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 up to 5 tiers. Now that's more for resource management. Now there's another one where with brute, where your attacks will deal more damage, but you also do life steal when you hit things with like your physical weapons. There's another blood type called Scholar, where your magic power damage, like your frost damage and your poison damage, does poison like bonus damage, life spell leech, cooldown reduction. So this is another really, really cool part of the game because you're a vampire. So hunting for tasty or good quality blood becomes a natural part of the game, and it seeps into how you think. Now, this is an actual aspect that I kind of wanted to talk about it later in detail later, but there is a way in this game that you can basically imprison high quality, like any person, but you can imprison them, feed them, and make sure that you can actually continuously drain them of their blood. So what you wind up doing is that out of the 5 blood types, 1 is creatures, so you can't capture creatures, but you can capture 4 100% quality blood types, chuck them into the prisons, and just continuously drain their blood while feeding them and keeping their misery and making sure that they don't die, because you can accidentally just kill them. And have 100% purity blood on whatever on weapon combat style or worker resource management style as much as you want. The thing is, I didn't realize that you could do this until now, after 60 hours into the game, because I always thought that imprisoning a unit just simply meant that you can use them once and then they die. So keeping things in, if you found something and you really wanted to have blood for an important boss fight, you keep them in prison. Did not know you could reuse them. It would have been nice if there were more tooltips that kind of explain this in detail, because talking in the community, there were a lot of people that didn't know about this. But outside of the fact that the developers were really bad at explaining that really, really cool concept, it exists and it's super cool. So now you're a vampire that gets fucked by sunlight, you have blood mechanics, and then you could capture and enslave people and drain them of high quality blood. And different sort of blood basically opens up different types of combat styles. Already, we're 10 minutes in, and I've explained 2 systems, and this shit's already we're gonna ramp up from here. Now, even in combat, when you're feeding, you can start feeding and then immediately abort it and just execute them instead of waiting while you're vulnerable. So in combat, when you're like fighting 5, 10 units, you can kind of look at the high HP units, and then when the execute comes out, teleport, dodge moves, execute, do more fighting, and then you're like, oh, I can execute him. Execute, feed, rinse, and repeat. This is a really, really cool like combat mechanic that I absolutely love. And also there's a dichotomy of, I think I probably explained, once again, this is the 50th time, so I don't know if I've said this now or before. But HP, if your blood goes to 0, your HP starts draining rapidly. So when you're draining blood, there's also an option to like just drain your blood vials, like your blood capacity, to refill your HP outside of combat, which is cool because now you're left with a dilemma. Do I try to live with higher amounts of HP, but then I'm draining my blood quality and you can't transfuse? If you lose that blood and you steal another blood, you're stuck with a different blood type at that purity. And this creates this constant sensation of what sort of style of fighting do I have to switch to? Do I want to heal, or do I want to like keep this high quality blood although I'm getting dangerously low? And this just creates this huge tension on how you're approaching combat in all sorts of situations that is just ingenious. This system is fucking amazing. I cannot give it enough props. Fuck, it's cool. And because I talked about sunlight, I eventually want to talk about that you go into later different sort of areas into the map, and then Garlic resistance becomes a thing, holy damage resistance becomes a thing, fire damage becomes a thing, because you're a vampire and you hate fire. Like they really leaned into like a survival mechanics of what it would feel like to be a vampire. And once you get your castle up and running, you can make thralls. We'll talk about that later. But you can make servants and thralls and huge rooms that like where everything starts crafting by itself because you functionally use magic. But now let's go into the third thing that I really love about this game, called V-Bloods. So you can craft this thing called a blood altar. And once you craft it, and you pick an enemy type, a trace of like a scent of blood will appear in a certain direction, and once you follow it, you get to this creature. Now there's like a bunch of these V-Bloods, and every single time you kill one, and you can just find them roaming the world, you kill them, you gain new magical powers, so you can have like different types of like styles of combat. 2, you unlock progression, like things for better weapon schematics, armor, different production facilities, more like cosmetic stuff for your buildings and stuff like that, and vampire powers, which is functionally kind of like a Metrovania like method of progression where you can transform into a bear to smash things. A wolf form makes you go faster. Frog makes you jump. Bat makes you be able to fly across the entire map without restriction. You can transform into a human lady, so you can actually covert ops into human infested areas. And if you have silver coin, which also kills you, which is an interesting thing. So if you have silver resistance potions and buffs and on, you can take these silver coins and go into town and go to merchants and buy stuff. That's really cool. So this V-Blood system is that you basically are constantly, as a vampire, hunting different creatures of the night or day or like good, corrupting them, killing them, taking up their power and becoming stronger. Now there is a thing where I didn't know about this, but in PvE, you can't really progress further unless the V-Blood is at somewhat similar level to you. You can skill it. Like, any game you can basically kill naked and do 1 damage continuously. It's very hard in this game. If you want to kill a V-Blood of level 60, you should be at least 58 to 60 to be able to confidently kill it. Now, here's where there's a bit of an issue. This is the con. Early game is fantastic because all of the progression is tied directly to V-Blood murdering. But somewhere between mid-game it switches to you have to find scrolls and then later on schematics to put into your libraries and studies so that you can have a percentile RNG chance to unlock new upgrades. Why this is an issue is that these studies and libraries and stuff like that have 50% really important upgrades to help make your character stronger so you can kill the different type of V-Bloods or you can unlock the ingredients, materials, or production facilities to be able to craft the stuff that you need to level up your power so you can fight these V-Bloods and cosmetics. And within PvE, the drop rate of these scrolls and schematics are abysmal. So you will have to grind 20 to 30 minutes to unlock enough scrolls to be able to randomly unlock either a cosmetic or an integral part of progression. And if you fuck up and get cosmetics 10 times in a row, well, looks like a couple of your hours was just burnt out for no fucking reason. This is actually one of the biggest problems of this game. People that play PvP have a lot of people that are all collectively collecting these things and they pull them the resource together and they just upgrade at a really rapid pace. Or the reason why the scarcity exists is that in PvP, you hunt and steal scrolls and schematics from other vampires. Right? Even like on top of this, to build some of these stuff in mid game to late game requires a metric ton of materials. Once again, a mechanic that exists for PvP. Because if there's not enough materials to go around, the logical choice is to raid other vampires, kill them, and steal their shit. In PvE, when you're playing by yourself or just your friends, that just means that you're grinding for a metric fucking shit ton of time. And you're just playing a loot box game where the price that you have to pay is your sanity and your time. Everyone that I have known in my friend group that has played this game dropped it after 4 or 5 hours because they hit mid game. The game does fucking piss all to explain how to progress further outside of just constantly dying to a high level V-Blood because progression is just stopped and you don't know what to craft because you didn't realize that you have to unlock the library or the study and that you're not getting enough scrolls or schematics to be able to unlock this stuff naturally, so you just don't know what to do and you just keep on dying and you peter off. That is how a lot of people have experienced this game and just stopped. The people that don't care are the people that just grind endlessly and just don't care. And there are gamers like that. I'm not one of them. I almost quit this game several times because of this one fucking aspect. And it pisses me off because progression was 1-to-1 locked in with hunting down V-Bloods. And then the moment mid-game hits, progression being locked behind RNG based study unlock mechanics where you have to grind for scrolls and schematics. I'm playing a vampire lord, going around killing paladins, priests, terrorizing villages, and then for the next 6 hours, I'm just fucking grinding the same location over and over again, raiding for, you guessed it, scrolls and schematics. It holds gameplay down to a grinding halt. And I do not blame anyone for hating this part of the game or not understanding enough to just drop the game. Later down the line, I got to late game and I was so fucking done with grinding for this shit that I actually went in and then I realized in the world creation there are options for higher drop rates for schematics, scrolls, materials, all these sort of things. This is where my biggest gripe about this game comes from. PvP being lacking of resources and feeling the need for players to start invading each other is completely fair and fine, and that's great balance. When you're playing PvE, drop rates for schematics should have been tripled or quadrupled at a baseline to help players naturally progress easily through the mid to late game, where you don't have to do a grind fucking fest of materials to be able to get there, especially when it's not very explicit about explaining this sort of mechanic. Or just continued with how early game worked and all progression is directly locked into the V-Blood hunting, and schematics and scrolls are basically just used for cosmetic items. That would have been fine. That would have been fun. Occasionally do progression, and when I get bored of getting killed over and over again, just take a bit of a break and go over and just raid some villages, get some schematics, and see what sort of new statue or vase or picture that I get. That would have been easy. But this is a problem that directly comes from the fact that the game was designed around PvP, and then PvE was put in secondly, like it's afterthought. But the developers never separated the balancing for PvP and PvE and just added sliders for the player to be able to dictate this. But as a person that's never played a survival game, really, in depth, I didn't understand what I was looking at, and I just wanted to do the base experience. And the base experience was basically designed for a grind fest for PvP, which is absolutely a dog shit experience for PvE. For anyone that is watching this video and basically played it and then dropped it, just increase material and drop rates to 500 fucking percent. I swear to God, the enjoyment that you'll have out of mid to late game will just exponentially increase, because you can kind of skip mindlessly grinding the same area 20 to 30 times and just do it 2 to 3 times and just immediately go back to the fun combat raiding and pillaging. This comes now, I want to actually talk about the second game mechanic in this game that I get why it's designed the way it is, and I still hate it. So, with vampires, raising armies of the undead and making them do what you want is a huge part of how cool vampires are. I'm a huge Total War fan. I play vampire accounts to raise armies of the undead and just slaughter the empire. That's what I like. So I naturally kind of thought how thralls would exist in the game is that you enslave random NPCs of high quality blood, of types of blood that you want, so you can create an army of brutes, an army of warriors, or an army of mages, or an army of workers, where you can send out the workers to harvest minerals and resources, and then after they fill up their bags to come home. But, enemy vampires will be like, hey, this worker is unprotected. So they go and kill him and loot the corpse of the worker. So then you get a notification. You're like, oh shit, my worker's dead. So you either start protecting your workers while they're working, or your clan members start protecting the workers as they're working, or you buff the living shit out of your other thralls with high, better armor, better gear, and they protect them. And when you're fighting V-Bloods or you're doing clan to clan wars, you can have an army of undead as bullet fodder that, you just, as the vampires are fighting, the thralls are kind of fighting and trying to kill each other while NPCs around you are fucking fighting. That would have been awesome. That's not what we got. The thrall creation process is you find a thrall that you like, and mostly it's going to be of a good blood type of high quality. You enthrall them once they get low. And because you can't use your animal powers or teleportation, you have to walk the entire fucking map back to your base, where you then put them into a coffin, which will take 10 hours, 24 hours. It depends on your server setting, which you can change once again in private, but you didn't know that at the base experience, where once they finish the conversion, you use a metric ton of mats to give them better gear. So hear this, in a PvE server where you're only playing by yourself, they can either protect your base from nothing, Or you can send them out on raids to different areas of the map in groups where they will bring a crap ton of resources home in real life time of 24 fucking hours. So on a server, it's fine. In a private game, that means that you have to be playing 24 fucking hours. This aspect was purely for PvP. Even when you're crafting items and refining items, some items just take 30 minutes to hours to fucking just fully craft. Me being a little bit understanding of like other survival games, basically like made crafting speeds and refining speeds 10 times as fast. I didn't think about servants. And to be honest, there isn't a side scroller to actually increase the speed of servants. I have faith that eventually they will put that sort of stuff into the base game. However, I don't think this system is going to change because this system is designed for clans to help rebuff their resources and all that sort of stuff within a PvP setting. This system is functionally useless for solo play and PvE play, which is super dumb because a huge part of the vampire mythos is raising an army of the dead. The fact that I can't rock up into a camp of bandits with my thrall posse and absolutely fucking slaughter shit is stupid. I don't like it. I cannot wait for the modders to come out and patch this shit because I would be super keen to have an army of thralls like roaming around the map with me. Now, there's a few more things I kind of want to like talk about and wrap up before the video becomes too long. The V-Blood fights are some of the best boss fights that I have had in video games in a long while. Hands down. So many of the boss designs, the way they attack, the way they interact with the player are really intelligent. I love them. The fact that each boss made me consider what weapon do I want to bring to this fight? What sort of style of magic do I want? What sort of blood do I need? Do I need more buffs? Do I need more resistance potions? How do I want to attack this boss? It actually made me think about this. I am a guy that sunk 2,000 hours in Diablo and I just whacked the same boss and dodged the same attacks over and over again and I still had fun. I have never been this challenged by the bosses in this game. And the level of elation that I got from defeating some of the bosses, and some of the boss fights are super epic. It's the same type of high that I get from defeating really cool bosses from Elden Ring and FromSoft games. Legitimately, that's the high level of high praise that I give to them. I had so much fun utilizing some of the different builds in this game that I actually am quite keen in trying PvP and experiencing how that experience would actually play like versus players. They nailed the boss fights. And I don't know, I went into detail about the world in another video, I think, in another take, but I don't know if I said it already now, but I'm going to go for it again. The world is beautiful. The dichotomy of like going in between sunlight, hiding behind the crevices, rocking into churches, divine areas, garlic infested villages, werewolf infested villages, undead like crypts, haunted like places and swamps full of like toads, mosquitoes, invisible werewolf hunting creatures that come after you, villages where all the people are like normal workers in the day and then werewolves at night. Like you'll go into the mines where like you'll look around and there's statues of something and you don't realize who it is until you fight a boss that's the main paladin boss or a main like bishop and you're like, oh, you were it. NPCs, rogues, skeletons, necromancers, paladins, archers roam the map constantly. And it makes the world feel alive. It makes the world feel that it's lived in. It's cool as hell. It's actually like Skyrim level immersion. Like I could teleport, and I do sometimes. But just roaming around the map is hella fun. Just watching NPCs and fighting NPCs, and then after a while, trying a new blood type, trying a new weapon, trying new builds was incredibly satisfying and fun. Um, on a random note on negativity, I always tuck this off. If you have resources, you're not actually allowed to use teleporters. This makes sense in PvP because if you have a lot of loot and you're walking back to your castle and you can't teleport, this gives more opportunity for other players to kill you and loot you, right? In PvE, it's just tedious because then you just have to walk everywhere, so you just tick it off. So I think I pretty much hit everything I kind of wanted to talk about. The blood mechanics are amazing. Combat is fucking amazing. The mixed matching between weapons and weapon arts, and which I didn't really go into detail. Functionally, as you level up your weapon, different types of weapon types have different weapon skills. Those in combination with your magic powers and your vampire powers, so all three, you can lead to very interesting combat situations. And then you take blood and blood types, and then sunlight, and like execute mechanic the consideration, and that certain like NPCs hate each other. Like werewolves will just attack everything. Paladins hate rogues and like bandits and stuff like that. And bandits hate like authorities. Like games is amazing. The world is amazing to look at. The world building, although there's no real story, it's still fantastic to live and coexist and experience this place. My biggest gripe is that the entire game is balanced around PvP, and that the game does very fucking little to kind of explain the difference between PvP and PvE. And the only way I knew how to make this game enjoyable was to play it, suffer, and now recreate a new world where I make the settings so that I can ignore the grind fest that is mid to late game for materials and unlocking progression. So I can just focus on the combat and exploration, which is a simple fix of just increasing mat drop rates and stuff like that, or linking progression directly to just V bloods and not studies, and keeping studies and all those scrolls and schematic things just to cosmetic items. But sadly, a lot of players, like I completely understand playing this game, getting frustrated by those things and just quitting. And I think that's a travesty because this game, I always thought that I understood the game and I experienced the game to the fullest. And every new V blood fight, every new boss fight, and there's a lot more mechanics in this game that I'm not even going to go into detail about right now because I want players to go in and find them and enjoy them, because there's so many cool mechanics in this game and I cannot recommend this game more. I just say, when you create the world, refinement rate or crafting speed, increase it by 500%. Drop rate of materials, increase by 500%. Ignore thrall mechanics if you're doing PvE. It's fucking useless. And once you have increased production rate, you'll be fine. Yeah. And also occasionally watch a few tips and trick videos from YouTube, because there's a lot of things in this game that they don't explain at all, and I don't think that they ever will, because I think it's one of those games where they're like, just figure it out. But yeah, there's right now the game is already absolutely fun. After 60 hours, I still want to sink more time into it, and I love it. I want to get my girlfriend and play it with her, because I want to do that experience with her too, and I think it would be awesome because she's a huge fan of Hades. I love this game. And the fact that there's going to be new, apparently, werewolf towns and like titans that you have to kill, and more V bloods in development, and more weapons and more skills that they're in plans, and balance changes. I am really hyped, to the point that I'll probably make a second review when the game officially releases to geek out about this game, because it's been it's so long that I feel like a kid at Christmas or my birthday where I received a gift that I really loved and it's all I can think about, and I love it so much. I've not done this in video before, but I would. No, I know that Stunlock series probably will never see this, but as a expiring new game developer that's been like making games in my spare time. You guys have motivated me and what's that word? Where inspired inspired me. Level of creativity, ingenuity, and amazing gameplay systems that you guys have implemented into this game. And honestly, the amount of childlike wonder and amazement and fun that I've had, mixed with the frustration, has been one of the most greatest gaming experiences that I've had in a long time. Thank you. I had a lot of fun with this game, and I'm going to continue, and I will continuously support you guys. And I look forward to all the new updates that are coming through this game. So yeah, if anyone didn't really know if whether or not they wanted to play this game or not, 100% for 28 AUD or $20 USD, absolute steal. But yeah, that was a little bit more of a bit more effort than zero effort game review. I can't praise this game enough. There are a few aspects that are frustrating, but I'm sure mods will fix it, or maybe the developers are actually going to change Thrall system to make them fun. And at this point, the amount of cool shit that they have done, absolutely believe that they could. So yeah, buy the game, enjoy it, and I'll see you guys next time for probably Devil May Cry or Besieged. Yeah. Bye.